Myself, Dr. Vijayendra Singh Tawar, Associate Professor in English, Government College, Buddha. Janjano. Well, dear friends, today we are going to discuss about My Last Duchess. My Last Duchess is well-known poem in English literature. It is prescribed in almost all the universities of the world wherever English literature is taught. It is a poem composed by Robert Browning. Robert Browning, who was born in 1812 and died 1889, is a Victorian poet. He was a contemporary of Tennyson and is known for his intellectual vigor and his psychological studies of human nature. His primary concern was with the soul of man. He always interested in studying the actions and reactions of human mind and heart. In his love poetry, he tried to probe into the deeper meanings of the love relationship of his characters. He was more interested in the psychology of love than in the passion of love. His aim was to lay bare the entire soul of his characters against the background of the love episode of their lives. Almost all the characters of Robert Browning in dramatic monologues which he composed finds themselves in critical juncture of their lives. In the present poem, My Last Duchess, the speaker Duke finds himself when he is going to remarry. Before we come to the poem, I would like to tell you something about what a dramatic monologue is. Now, dear students, the dramatic monologue is essentially a narrative spoken by a single character. It gains added effects and dimensions through the character's comments on his own story and the circumstances in which he speaks. The reader can infer or judge the intelligence and honesty of the narrator and assess the value of the views expressed. The salient features of the dramatic monologue can be understood better if we compare it with the soliloquy and the drama. Now, the dramatic monologue is spoken by a single person. On the face of it, the form seems to have affinity with the soliloquy, a man talking to himself or a private debate. Now, the soliloquy really means a speech in which the speaker talks to himself. That that is, the speaker tells the audience what is going on in his mind. In the dramatic monologue, though the active speech is ascribed to a single person, the presence and reactions of the other persons are conveyed naturally in the course of the single man's talk. That is, when he speaks, we becomes aware of the presence of listener or listeners. Now, let us try to find the difference between monologue and drama. In dramatic monologue, though embodying the term dramatic is to be different from drama. The two forms are different both in method and purpose. Drama essentially involves external actions and outward conflict. It has a sustained plot and the action does not develop through the medium of a single character, but through a group of characters. In a dramatic monologue, on the other hand, there is a single speaker and it is the dissection of the soul of that speaker which the poet attempts. There is no plot or action or no chronological sequence of events. The speaker's mind moves over the past and the future while speaking in the present. Thus, we can say dramatic monologue a different kind of a special kind of form for poetry. And Robert Browning is well known for his dramatic monologues. Now let us come to the poem. The poem, which is entitled My Last Duchess, was first published in dramatic lyrics in 1842. It was later on also included in dramatic romances of 1868. This dramatic monologue is regarded as one of the finest dramatic monologues not only of Browning but in the whole range of English literature. Now let us discuss the development of the theme, thought, the poet, how the poet brings before us the different incidents depicted in the poem. We see first of all that there is a widower, duke. He is talking to a person. The person who has come is the envoy of a count who has come with a marriage proposal, or we can say to finalize a marriage between the count's daughter and the widower duke. The duke, in order to impress him, shows his art gallery to the envoy, and while showing different things, he tries to attract the attention of the envoy to a portrait which is hanging on the walls. The duke says that this is the portrait of his last duchess and it was painted by Farah Pendov. She appears to be alive in the painting. From the portrait, it appears that an impatient, earnest, and smiling glance shone in the eyes of the Duchess. The Duke explains that the depth and the passion of her earnest glance was not reserved for her husband alone. In fact, she used she had no sense of discrimination. She smiled and blushed at anyone. She used to thank everyone sweetly without differentiating between petty gifts of others and the Duke's gift of 900 years of family background. Her behavior displeased the Duke, and the displeased Duke could not tolerate her, and he gave order, and she was murdered. Then the Duke takes the envoy downstairs to meet the other visitors. On the way, he calls the attention to the statue made by Klaus of Innsbruck, the Neptune taming a seahorse. This we can say this is a very short poem of just 56 lines, and the incident which is depicted in it is clear that there is a conversation and the speaker is only Duke and he speaks, and we through the speech or through the poem at various places we come to know about the presence of the listener also. If we make an analysis of this poem, we find that this poem is having certain as you can special critical qualities. We can make analysis of the poem through various subheadings. First of all, it is a dramatic monologue. The poem is a great dramatic monologue. The speaker is the Duke of Ferrara, a 16th century nobleman of Italy. He is represented as speaking his mind aloud to a silent listener who is envoy of a count with a marriage proposal. The character's words reveal his personality, mind, and nature. The second quality of the poem, which attract our attention, is dramatic plunge into critical situation. As in most of the Browning's dramatic monologues, My Last Duchess opens at a critical juncture of a character's life, though the critical situation is made explicit to us only towards the end of the poem. The Duke is speaking to the envoy of a count whose daughter he intends to marry. It appears that he is trying to impress on the envoy and his master, the count, as to the sort of behavior he expected or expects from the woman he is going to marry. Third quality of this poem is character analysis. The very first line, that's my last touches painted on the wall, is dramatic in tone. From that moment onwards, the poem presents a remarkable character study of the Duke and an analysis of the intricate psychological interactions of human nature. We are not only given a vivid picture of the Duke's temperament, but through his own words, we realize the true nature of his last Duchess as well. The another quality of the poem which attract our attention is psychological study of arrogance and possessiveness. The Duke's tyrannical attitude is evident when he says that he alone can draw aside the curtain before the picture. Two lines are enough to indicate the effective way in which he dealt with a situation unpleasing to himself. This is, I gave commands. Then all smiles stopped together. The another quality of this poem is brevity, terseness, or aphoristicness. We can say that what the poet wanted to say, he had said the fewest possible words. The first thing to note in the poem is its brevity. Just 56 lines are used to give a concentrated picture of the whole lifetime. It shows Browning's genius for condensation. Another quality is pictorial quality. Browning's pictorial quality comes out well in the poem. We can almost see the half blush that dies along her throat and the spot of joy on the cheek, as well as the impatient smiling glance of her eyes. The statue of Neptune is crystallized before us with a deft stroke of the pen. As he says, Browning writes, notice Neptune, though taming a seahorse, thought a rarity, that it is regarded as a rare work of art. Another quality of the poem is its rhyme scheme or rhythm. The poem is written in heroic couplets, but the rhyme can easily pass off unnoticed in the poem because the sense is continuous and runs on from one line to another. Thus, many a reader would easily think that the poem has been written in blank verse. What we notice is this, that there are 28 couplets, but when we study the poem, we find that it is not written in couplet. As we move on very fast towards the other line, as it captures our attention in such a way. In the end, or in the conclusion, we can say the poem is a perfect example of dramatic monologue. It is a piece of action, not of still life. It is a dramatic scene in small compass into which it is poured all the emotion natural to a character, thus making him reveal himself vividly and powerfully. What we noticed in this poem that this poem is a unique poem known for certain qualities, and those qualities which have made it a unique poem is its brevity, pictorial, psychological study of characters, as only 56 lines have been used by the poet to compose this poem. And if we go by the story of which has been presented in these 56 lines, if there would have been any other writer or novelist, he would have written a large novel or a very big novel of many volumes. So, dramatic monologue or Browning's poem as a dramatic monologue is unique in English literature. It is not only for Browning, but for the whole of range of English literature stands alone. Thank you.